Hello to all traders and welcome back to another market review brought to you by Orbex. So we're looking at the indices today after we've seen a slight upturn on the S&P and the NASDAQ in the last 24 hours. However, it is looking likely that we will actually see the indexes decline a little bit more. Even though they are up year to date, we have seen quite a fall from grace from the last swing high that we saw, especially for the S&P index. It's really been troubled recently by the Fed's let's say optimistic view on some more rate hikes, and also the unbalanced view that a lot of traders and economists are looking at for the next 6 months going into 2024. Will rates stay higher for longer? And also, will there be any more rate hikes going into next year, when the Fed did say they were going to slow down and even start pausing for the next year or so at least? So we'll see if that actually starts happening. But you know, we are looking now likely that we will be seeing another touch at the 4,000 handle for the S&P index. We were just trading above the 4,200 handle, and now we're just having a little bit of a signal that we could start possibly seeing price action. As I said, from the last double bottom that we saw at the back end of April, we are now looking at this kind of V-shaped recovery, very choppy price action. But will we see another downturn at least to there? But it's not all doom and gloom for the S&P. Like I said, we are up year to date. If we look at this time last year and even before that, the S&P was actually quite subdued. But since then, we have had obviously these big peaks, and also almost a nice head and shoulders there as well. That's seen this kind of reversal back down to 4,200, possibly now going towards 4,100, and then 4,000 will be another big test for the S&P. What we're seeing on the divergences for the RSI, at least, and a lot of the other stochastics, is a slight bullish divergence that could actually start picking price action up in the near term. However, we are still quite looking likely that prices will remain a little bit subdued in that sense. So we're just waiting to see the next round of data, and which will be the NFP data tomorrow. Job numbers are supposed to be slightly lower, but we've heard that before on the consensus. Will we get any surprises, and will the American market start lifting quite significantly? Well, we've seen the dollar being quite progressive in the last few trading sessions. But let's just take a look at the 4-hour chart. Like I said, we had this particular peak here towards the 4,600 handle, but since then, a few hundred points have been wiped off the S&P. So it was kind of worrying because the Dow was actually doing okay. The NASDAQ is up over 1% as well. It was just the S&P that we were worried about because it has had quite a big hit in the last few trading months. So speaking of the NASDAQ, let's just have a quick look on how that's performing. Let's just go on the daily chart first of all today. And it is pretty much like the S&P, where we've had this kind of head and shoulders pattern. We are having a peak, but again, year to date, look at this amazing trajectory on the index. If we look at the back end of 2022, this amazing push, but since then there was always going to be a correction and a possible downswing as well. And now we're just kind of in a slight bearish channel that we are looking to break out of, but it might take a little bit more time because the S&P is looking a little bit more bearish than bullish, and we could actually start seeing more price action falling quite significantly as well. Let's just take a look on the 4-hour chart. We're just now seeing where we're looking at in terms of intraday analysis. As I said, the big news today will be initial jobless claims. These are coming in at a weekly, well, every Thursday, and then we've got the big numbers of the NFP tomorrow. ADP numbers were slightly down yesterday as well, so there is a little bit of a contraction going on in America at the moment, but not a recession, which is quite important. So let's just see where we're looking at in the next 24 to 48 hours before the weekend comes into play, and then we'll see if there's going to be any more shifts in this dynamic for the Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P for the index. So just a reminder that the NFP live webinar will be hosted by myself tomorrow. Feel free to join, and we have a live chat going on there as well. So any big updates that are happening as the webinar is taking place, feel free to ask any questions. I'll answer them as soon as possible, and we can study the charts together and see what the opportunities are as well. So thank you very much for joining me. Have a great trading day ahead, and we'll speak again. Bye for now.